All right, well, welcome everybody. My name is Lauren Gutterman and I am the chair of American Studies. Please help yourself to food. We have so much. And hold on to your raffle tickets because we will be raffling off 2 pairs of hiking boots at the end of the event today. And I believe Jo also has some copies of her books to give away as well. So thank you for joining us. I am very excited to introduce Jo Giese, an award-winning radio journalist, author, and teacher, as well as an alum of the undergraduate program in American Studies. Yay! While at UT, Jo completed a senior thesis about Frank Lloyd Wright, for which she traveled to many of his important buildings across the country. And several years ago, Jo established the Jo Giese Excellence Endowment to assist outstanding American Studies students to conduct their own independent research, just as she did. In her words, quote, "This endowment seeks to make it financially possible, easier, and more fun for students to do their research and to travel when necessary, whether domestically or abroad." And I know our students are very appreciative of that support. After graduating with her degree in American Studies in 1969, Jo began working as a journalist at the Houston Post. She then wrote for a trade publication in design and later produced documentaries for public television. Jo has written for many top publications, more than I can list here, including the New York Times, the Los Angeles Times, and Vogue. As a special correspondent, she was part of the Peabody award-winning team at Marketplace, the most popular business radio program in America. And at Marketplace, she also won an Emma Award for Exceptional Radio Story from the National Women's Political Caucus and a Gracie Award from the Foundation of Women in Radio. She's contributed to Ira Glass's This American Life and is the author of several books, including Never Sit If You Can Dance, A Woman's Path, and the Good Food Compendium. And most recently, she is the author, of course, of You'll Never Walk Alone, which she'll be discussing today. Joining Jo today in conversation is her grandson, Finn Warren, who is currently a corporate finance student here at UT. Finn is originally from LA, and after graduating this spring, he'll be starting in New York City as an investment banking analyst. So thank you to Finn and Jo. So this one is
Thank you.
You unmuted.
So now let me tell you a little bit about Jo's book, You'll Never Walk Alone. One moment, Jo was scaling mountain trails and chasing waterfalls. The next, a freak household accident and failed surgery left her unable to walk. With her Achilles tendon dead and her future uncertain, she faced an impossible choice: surrender to a sedentary life or fight her way back to the trail. Through grit, humor, and support of her family and friends and doctors, Jo defied medical expectations. Step by step, she relearned how to walk, eventually jumping from helicopters, trekking through remote corners of the world, and reclaiming the wild places she loved most. It is a story about resilience, courage, and healing power of joy. And as Jo herself puts it, when something you love is taken from you have 2 choices. You can accept defeat, or you can reinvent yourself and keep walking, even when the path disappears. This book is her story, and we are lucky to have her here today to tell us about it.
Thank you.
Please welcome Jo.
Thank you, Finn. Let's see. Is this on? Yeah. And it is a special privilege to be here. Authors on book tours go all kinds of places. But what's such a privilege for me is I went to UT. I was in the American Studies department here. And I'm going to say something. You're not supposed to say this. But I have a lot of grandsons, and Finn is my favorite. Okay, I'll take a moment and tell a Finn story. This will tell you how long Finn has been my favorite for. I was in, Finn is blushing. I'm sorry, Finn. I didn't tell Finn I was going to do this. I was in the hospital once for some surgery. It was no big deal. It had nothing to do with any of this. And Finn's mother had to go somewhere. His father was going to New York, where everybody was living in LA at the time. And Finn was about 7 years old. And so his parents needed an adult to come stay with him. And so they checked me, my husband checked me out of the hospital. And instead of going home post-op and resting, we went down to Finn's house. And Finn at 7, when I walk in the door, everybody's giving us directions for what to do because his father's going to New York, whatever. And Finn just quietly says, "But Joe, how are you?" Because he knew I had just been discharged from the hospital. And that is how Finn has been his entire life.
Well, thank you, Joe.
Well, it's just the truth. So I want to particularly thank Lauren for setting this event up today. As I told her, she was a pleasure to work with from the beginning to end. That's not always what you can say. And my brother Jim is also here, and that's nice. Jim is here. He's at the very back, and he went to UT too. I'll just start out by saying that yes, I am Joe Giese, but I wasn't always called that. During this journey, this medical journey, for a lot of it, I was called Scooter Girl because I couldn't walk. And for 144 days, I got around on a knee scooter. And to inject a little fun into this totally non-fun journey, I put this on the front of my scooter. So when I was going around, you could hear me coming. Just a little something. And during that period when I didn't walk for 144 days. And it wasn't clear that I would ever walk again. And nowadays, people, especially the press who interviews me, they're calling me a medical miracle. So, about a month or so ago, I was with a doctor. The doctor had nothing to do with my ankle or any of this. And I said, "I just want to ask you a question. Because I wondered if when people call me a medical miracle, is that hyperbole or is that justified?" And he thought about it and he said, well, most people without an Achilles would be doing well to walk in their living room. And yeah, you're a medical outlier, a medical miracle. So I can actually use that term. But let me take you back long before the accident. I started hiking when I was 5 years old. We lived in Seattle along Lake Washington. And this is when little girls wore clothes like this. Not anymore. And my mother used to sew these. She didn't sew this one, but this was mine. How is it possible that when I opened a closet in the garage like a month ago, I found this in there? I mean, I thought, where has that been all this time? But I would walk from our house in Seattle over to Seward Park, a gorgeous park designed by the Olmsted family that designed Central Park in New York. Gorgeous. And I would do this by myself. I would take a couple pumps on the swing, and then I would walk up into the old growth forest. I loved doing that. And then I would walk back home, and a retired cop who lived next door said to my mom, you might consider that's not a really good thing for her to do by herself. And my mom said, she likes it. So I started walking and hiking at a very young age. And about the same time, my parents took us to a waterfall, Snoqualmie Falls, just north of Seattle. It's one of those great waterfalls. It's exactly what you want a waterfall to be, huge and big with the water thundering down and, the vibration, the mist. And I became a waterfall junkie too. It's just in my DNA. I will hike anywhere, but as Finn knows, hiking to waterfalls is really my favorite thing. Finn and I have hiked to waterfalls in Iceland,
Big Sur,
Big Sur, Vietnam, Montana for sure.
Montana.
Yeah. So we've had a lot of fun doing that together over the years. And now I'm going to fast forward to November 2018 to the accident. Okay, I'm upstairs in our house in Southern California, and it's raining outside, which is really unusual. It doesn't usually rain the end of November in Southern California. And my friend is out there. She's ringing the doorbell. I think, oh, she's going to get wet. I've got to race down and let her in fast. So I leave my office. I race down the 2 stairs, and I miss the bottom 2 steps. And I go flying horizontally. My husband heard the crash. He came running. I said, let Lana in. She's getting wet. And so he goes, he gets Lana. My husband and Lana get me up. They get me to urgent care. The next day, I'm at an orthopedist office, and he's someone I've known. He did a little tweak in my knee once, and he says, I can do this. I can fix this for you. I did Achilles repair 20, 30 years ago. Now, this is a very smart audience here at UT. If some doctor, Zach, if some doctor says that to you, I did this 20, 30 years ago, you are going to say, thank you, sir, but...
You might want to find a better doctor.
Or you might, Zach said you might want to find a better doctor. I would think that's true too, but you might want to find a doctor who did this 20 or 30 minutes ago. But there's someone in front of us who we knew a little bit, and we had him do the surgery. The surgery was botched. I ended up having 8 surgeries. After about the 3rd surgery, it became, during the surgery, they're supposed to be cleaning the wound, and because the whole wound area had become necrotic. Now, you guys are all pretty smart. You probably know what necrosis is and necrotic means. I didn't even know that word at that point, but I certainly got too familiar with it. And so they do a surgery where they're going to repair the necrosis around the wound, and they're going to make sure the Achilles is properly attached. And the surgery is supposed to last about 4 hours. After about an hour, I'm in the recovery area. And the surgeon, who I really liked a lot, he comes in and he says, an hour, I said, what happened? And he says, you want to see? And he has a picture. The Achilles tendon is your strongest, longest tendon in your body. And mine had curled up like in a fetal way and died. And the picture showed it all curled up in a black, slimy mess. So there was nothing to do. Now I don't have an Achilles. It's not a question of repairing it. I don't have one. And so 8 surgeries later, the PT person I was seeing, and I thought this person was a friend of mine. I'd had her up to the house for lunch. We commiserated because our mothers died about the same time, and so I went into her PT facility, and she had me walk across the facility, and she watched, and then she had me walk across the other way, and she watched. And then she said, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I have to tell you, you're going to be impaired for the rest of your life. Now, as a medical professional, the only thing at that point I had was hope. Hope that I could walk again. At that point, I was kind of lurching and limping. Hope that I would get better. And then she tells me I'm going to be impaired the rest of my life. I never spoke to her again. Instead, about that time, the doctor who botched my first surgery sent me a text message. And he knew how serious my condition was and I wasn't walking, because he said, you might try this group. And this group was a group called CORE, the Center of Restorative Exercise in Northridge, which is a hell of a long way from where I live, but it is in LA. And I thought, okay, I'll go there once, but then this is it. Well, I went there for 2.5 years. And the man, it's mostly for spinal cord injury patients. So nobody in there is walking. Everybody's in a wheelchair or they're in these standing devices. They're holding them up. And I was part of that disabled population. And Taylor, who's center founder and director of that center, works with all these seriously injured people, but he had never worked with someone who did not have an Achilles. But he has several PhDs in sports medicine. And he was encouraged or interested, excited about taking me on to see if he could put his PhDs into practice here. And he didn't know. None of us knew. And after 2.5 years, I was able to walk, to walk again a little bit. So should you want to ask some questions?
So I've got a couple questions for you, Joe.
Okay.
First, would you like to start off by telling them what is your favorite waterfall you've ever been to?
Oh, I guess it would be Iguazu. Iguazu, I mean, it's hard. There's so many. I'm sorry, Finn, you didn't go to us with that one. Finn's younger brother, Miles, went with us to Iguazu.
He got to go, I didn't.
Yeah, Iguazu's on the border of Argentina and Brazil, the very tippy-top border. And as a waterfall junkie, I was dying to see it because the top of it it's the longest waterfall in the world. The top of it goes 1.5 miles. Can you imagine? The water is coming down for 1.5 miles. All you can see is water. And but it's a tough competition. I mean, there's others too.
Yeah, the ones in Iceland were pretty cool too.
Oh, those were fabulous. There were so many.
There were a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people too.
Right. Right.
So one from me too is how has my grandfather, Ed Warren, played an important role in your recovery? And what have you learned about the importance of friends and family throughout your recovery process?
Oh, that is such an important question. But first, the friends and family is really important. But first, I want to talk about Ed, my husband, Finn's grandfather. When the book was done and the press started interviewing me, from the very, very beginning, and this includes like the audio engineer who I worked with on the audiobook, and they all wanted to know about the Ed character. John, the audio engineer, he was going through a divorce at that time. He said, I want to meet this Ed. Maybe because his marriage hadn't been very good, and he was so, I think, impressed by how Ed was with me, no pun intended, every step of the way in this. And in one part in the book, I think I capture it, I say, it would never have occurred to me to let Ed go alone to an appointment. Joe for Ed, Ed for Joe. We were and are a team. Teamwork works. And that was how Ed fit into my recovery. But also, the You'll Never Walk Alone is that I wouldn't be walking today without all the doctors who finally came on board. I finally met a doctor in New York who actually creates artificial Achilles. But he takes a tendon from the big toe and makes it into an Achilles. But by the time we saw him 9 months after all this, he looked at my little graveyard down there. And this guy who has pioneered in this microscopic surgery, he didn't want to go near it. He said, go back, see how much function you can regain by doing more physical therapy. But it was the friends and family, the friends, like a particularly wonderful Persian neighbor would bring Persian food, delicious Persian food over, and she would bring it upstairs and cuddle in bed with me. We'd never cuddled in bed before. Another friend she came over and she just held my hand, and another favorite friend, sometimes there aren't any words for what you're going through, and she just came over and held my feet. And that was so memorable. That's what I needed then. And we all need, when something besets us, to know that our recovery matters. We don't want to recover in silence by ourselves. We want to know that if we recover and get better, or when we recover, that it matters to other people.
So that leads me into my next question. What was the most intense part of your recovery process?
Oh, the most intense or the worst, the awfulest?
Maybe both. We could hear both.
Well, have any of you heard about hyperbaric oxygen chambers? Okay, a couple of you are shaking your heads, yes. Hyperbaric oxygen chambers were originally designed primarily for burn patients because they could speed up the healing from the burn and the infection. At a certain point in this process, one of the trauma wound surgeons said, well, we haven't tried hyperbaric oxygen. Let's try that. Now, the one I chose was the largest one. They have some that's just one person, and it's like they zip you into a coffin, literally. And I wasn't going to do that. I am also claustrophobic. I don't like elevators. I don't do underground parking. And and so I chose the biggest hyperbaric oxygen chamber. It was a cylinder. Think of a little submarine, a mini submarine that's about 12 feet long. It had places for 8 people. And when I went there were only 4 of us that day. So we got to spread out a little bit. But what they do is and think about this for someone who's claustrophobic and doesn't like to be locked in, you get in this little submarine, mini submarine, and you can only bring in certain items because it's highly inflammable in there. Actually, there were a lot of things I was worried about, like, well, because they lock you in and then they put you down, like you have the bends and they're feeding you more oxygen. And I thought, God, what if there's an earthquake, or what if, how would we get out? Because it will kill you if they raise you up too quickly. And so I knew once they locked that lock on top and they started submerging us, that I was going to be there in this locked device for 2 hours. Now you're looking at someone who doesn't even like to be in an elevator for 20 seconds. And I thought, well, if this is what it takes, and I didn't want anybody to say, well, if only she had tried hyperbaric oxygen. That was the worst. I was supposed to do it for 20 sessions. And after about 5, my husband and I said, this is not worth the torture. This is not amounting to anything. So I bailed. And I would say that was one of the darkest.
I know what your hiking whistle's for, but would you like to explain to the audience what you wear a whistle for while you hike?
Yeah. When I hike in Montana, and I hike all kinds of places, but we do a lot of hiking in Montana. When my husband and I were introduced 20 years ago. He had the place in Montana, I had the place in Southern California. And when you hike in Montana, you always have a bear bell on your hiking poles. So the bears, if you stop talking, if the bears hear, we're talking about black bears now, we're not talking about grizzlies. If the bears hear you talking when you're hiking, they won't come near. They don't want to be near people. I have that. And then this is just an extra thing. If I see a bear that hasn't seen me yet, you blow the whistle and they will stay away. It does work.
That's awesome. And then I think the last one from me before we open to the audience is there an image that kept you going through the darkest moments?
Oh, yes. The very darkest moments, and this is kind of ironic, because the image that has always kept me going is a waterfall image, whether it's Iguazu in Argentina or Snoqualmie Falls north of Seattle, or any of the waterfalls we experience in Iceland. But the image that kept me going was the path to a favorite waterfall outside of Bozeman. And I thought what was interesting is it wasn't the waterfall, but it was the path. And when I took my first walk down our driveway in Bozeman, and I saw, well, I can walk 559 steps down to the end of the driveway and back. I thought, well, I did that. I'm going to try Highlight now. And Highlight is not a big hike. It's just a gentle stroll. And I was able to do that, and I put my hands up in a rocky moment. And in honor of all of this, what's really fun, and what we are giving today to two of you lucky people, are these Oboz hiking boots. And before Oboz even honored me as a local hero, I had been wearing their boots for a dozen years. They didn't know that, but I loved them. They fit perfectly. And when they gave me this honor, and they send me now new hiking boots every season. But as I was telling someone before, their boots last a lifetime. So every 4 months, I don't need, every 3 months, I don't need another pair, Paige. But they're sending them, and they're wonderful. So when we have the raffle, and whoever wins, you could get red ones too, but they have all different colors and styles. You don't have to get the high ones, but.
Great. Well, I think we should open it to the audience for questions. We already got a lot. Let's start with Simone.
So I know you talking about like the bears in Montana, and you said you hiked Iceland and other terrains like Vietnam. All these different climates differ a lot. Do you have like a specific training protocol before embarking on these Iceland hikes or Vietnam hikes where the terrain is so different from each other?
Okay, so the question, in case somebody couldn't hear it, was, do I have a different training protocol when I'm hiking Iceland or Vietnam or wherever? No. The only training protocol I have is that I walk every day. And especially since my Achilles injury, part of the recovery from that is a tailor insisted that I do a certain number of steps every day. Now, this is when, I could barely get out the front door. And so luckily, I've always enjoyed the outdoors. I love being out in nature. I love smelling the greenery, looking at it. I love how friendly people are when they're hiking. But I've also been kind of impressed when I've been back on the UT campus, how friendly everybody is here, how quick everybody is to smile at you. And I like that too. So, yeah. No, so I don't have I'll tell you what I do and what I don't do. I have a particular hiking buddy in Montana, Brad. And one day we're coming back down off a mountain. We didn't go all the way to the summit because it was getting near noontime and we didn't want to be up there at noon, too bloody hot. So we're coming down, and as we're coming down, and we're dressed for hiking. I mean, I've got a sun hat on, I've got all this kind of stuff and more. And there is somebody coming to do the mountain. She is wearing like clothes like you're wearing practically. She might even have had flip-flops on. And she doesn't even have any water with her and no sun hat. And we're just astonished. And so my only inclination is you have to dress for what you're doing. You don't have to get oboes hiking boots, but you got to have some sturdy boots. Otherwise, you're going to slip and slide. And you need a sun hat. I mean, this woman was going to summit. We asked her what she was going to do. She said, she's going to summit the mountain. She didn't even have a sun hat on. This is Montana in summer? No.
Yeah, Simone runs marathons, so he's in the endurance training and all that. Any more questions? Alex.
In your Voyage LA interview last April, you were enthusiastically and adamantly, you stated that you were going to do the audio recording for the audiobook. And you've kind of spent like a lot of time, your whole career, crafting stories for the ear through radio, NPR, and whatnot. My question is, how does writing a book and like full-length memoir feel different from audio storytelling? And did your radio instincts help or take away from that?
Oh, that's a nice question. Nobody's ever asked me that before. The question was, how is doing the audiobook different from writing the book? I was at NPR for 10 years doing stories for Marketplace and This American Life and other places. And I was also at WNBC Television News in New York for many years. And I think most people would think it's more prestigious and more fun to be on TV, and probably I enjoyed that part the most. No, I loved working in radio. I loved showing up by myself or with a sound engineer, and there's just the two of us there with the person or the people we're interviewing. And when you do TV, you're showing up with a crowd, even with the new technology now. You've got the sound man, the cameraman, the lighting people, and the makeup people. I just loved radio. I remember once being in Oxford, Mississippi, of all places. This was with a previous book, Never Sit If You Can Dance, which is still available. I have to tell you, someone I didn't even know, now I consider her a new friend. She bought 50 of these books like last week to give out at her birthday party in 2 weeks. What was the question again about? What did I?
How does the audio experience?
Oh, so
help or take away from the writing process?
yeah, it's different, and I like them both. And I called up because we knew we were going to do an audiobook. So I called up the sound engineer who did this book with me. And this book, Never Sit If You Can Dance, Lessons from My Mother. At the end of this book, my mother dies. And John, the audio engineer, and I were doing this together. He's, when you're a sound engineer doing an audiobook, the person who's recording it will do a few sentences, maybe a few paragraphs, and then you'll say, stop, we have to repeat that word. And so you get to know each other pretty well over the 4 or 5 total days you're working together all day long. And by the end of this book, of recording this book, John and I were both crying. We were in tears because it was so sad. So then 5 years later, I called John back and I say, John, I want to do another audio book. I don't know if you remember me. 5 years ago, we worked on a project together, but come on, John does audio for everybody all the time. Why would he necessarily, remember me out of the blue? And he said, I remember you. He said, we cried together. And I said, that's right. And I said, I don't think we're going to be crying this time. I enjoy both processes. I enjoy writing. I love that process. I worked with a wonderful editor. As I say in the end of this book, this didn't start out as a book. It started out as an essay, and I have a lifetime of getting my essays published everywhere. And so I gave it to an editor, and I said, this is too long for an essay. I was thinking The Atlantic or something. It's too long. Maybe you can help me, shorten it. And he said, this isn't an essay. He said, this is a map for a book. And that's how it turned into a book. But I had no intention of doing that. But I like both processes.
Carter.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, that's a great idea. Carter, you want
Sure. Just so you've been doing books your whole entire life. This one's obviously drastically different because you went through this whole entire process and had the medical miracle. But throughout that whole entire process, what is one thing that you've learned about yourself throughout the process that has just surprised you?
That's a good question. The people that honored me at Oboes with the boots, I asked Paige, after she gave me this email and said, I'm going to get Oboes for life. And I said, Paige, why me? And I wasn't asking to be flattered. Why me? And she said, because of your determination and grit. And I think maybe that's what separates someone like myself, who does not succumb when they get a grim diagnosis, that you overcome it. And I've thought about that a lot. Like I haven't known anybody else who doesn't have an Achilles. But there was, in the New York Times one day, there was a letter to the editor, and it was from this guy in Florida. He used to ride his bike 50 miles a day. He had a bike accident. He lost his Achilles. He had exactly the same situation I had. An infection set in. He had 3 surgeries. At the point where I met him on the phone and called him, he had 3 surgeries. And I said, okay, but now what are you going to do? Because by that point, I was totally invested in walking again. And he threw in the towel. He said he was giving up. I said, you're not going to walk? And he just was tired and worn out. So I've often thought about that. What is the difference between someone who refuses to give up? And as the woman at Obo said, it was your determination and grit. And I think that's probably true. So if you're given a grim diagnosis, you do not have to accept it.
That is awesome. Does anyone else have any questions? Henry.
I think y'all can hear me. So obviously that was a pretty trying time in your life. What is it like spinning such a negative situation into like a productive project like a book?
So what's it like to transform a negative situation into something positive like a book? Well, my guiding force was really, I want to educate other people. When they're given a grim diagnosis, they do not have to accept it. Don't accept it. You can move beyond it. And that was my what I was thinking about in my head while I was working on it. And so did that answer your question?
Yeah, and then just a quick follow-up, is it like therapeutic at all, kind of reflecting on your whole experience?
Writing the book therapy? I'm not sure about therapy. At a certain point when I was at the end of the journey, I was at CORE for 2.5 years. And Taylor, who had never worked with someone without an Achilles, he put a whole recovery team together, the Joe recovery team, and I was CEO of this team. And it included a medical acupuncturist, it included a podiatrist, it included shockwave therapy, it included massage therapy, I, at a certain point, I wanted to not do one of these things. The medical acupuncturist was all the way in Beverly Hills. I said, do you know how far that is from where I live? And he said, this is your job now, and you have to do this to recover. So I think some people just at a certain point, just kind of, they lose interest. But since I had walked my whole life, I didn't, and it was so important to me. I wasn't about to lose that.
That is awesome.
Right.
Do we have any more questions from the audience?
Okay. There we go.
The title really evokes something very, this is sort of like the last question, but it evokes something very metaphorical. And so you're talking about actual hiking and beating the odds physically, but I just wonder if you want to reflect on kind of larger lessons that go beyond the specific experience that you took from it.
Well, yeah, it's like most everything we do in life, right? It's very unusual to succeed by yourself. You turn to somebody else, you turn to a partner, a boss, a relative, someone, and you do it together better. And so many people got on my team, and you can't recover alone. You just can't.
Yeah, no, you had a great support team, it sounds like. A lot of people to be thankful for. Yeah.
Thanks so much. This is great. I wanted to know, when you are hiking, are you pretty much keeping your eyes kind of straight ahead on the trail where you're going, or are you listening for birds? Are you taking in plants? Are you doing all of that?
So the question was, what am I looking and listening when I'm hiking? Most of the time, my mind is blown away by how gorgeous it is when you're in the mountains. Every step is, and then of course, I have hiking poles, and I am really paying attention. And I have my bear bell. I also usually have bear spray, because we hike in some pretty potentially dangerous areas sometimes. I remember one of a recent hike we did, and this was with, I think I was with my hiking buddy Brad. I think my husband was there too. I think somebody else was with us. And as we're leaving that hiking area, we're driving out, and I swear to you, it was maybe, was that 20 feet or 20 yards away, there's a big black bear. Now, at that point, at least, we were in the car. We rolled the windows up, but that bear was very near our trail. But just knowing that they're around doesn't, stop me from doing what I love to do. So.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of danger. They one time had a bear in their house, so they had to deal with that, which was crazy.
Right. That was, and we can show you where the bear was. We left, when we redid the house there, our property manager said, well, don't you want to replace this windowsill here? Because the bear had bitten into the windowsill trying to get out. And I said, are you crazy? How many people have bear bites in their windowsill? So I said, keep that exactly as it is. And when my husband and I had been out and shopping, doing stuff, and when I came back in, I was loaded down with all these groceries and stuff. And at the end of the hall is the kitchen, but I wasn't looking down there because I'm afraid I'm going to drop all this stuff. And, it's in plastic bags, it's slippery. And I get down almost to the kitchen, probably about 7 feet away. And there is a black bear standing there, eye to eye, within 7 feet of a black bear. And I was like, and my husband says I yelled bear. I don't remember that. I went into the little laundry room we have there with the stupid little doors that go like this, and they're not, they're flimsy. They're no protection against a bear. And I got in there and I pulled out my cell phone. I thought, I'll call 911. And first of all, I couldn't call because my hands were trembling too much. But secondly, I didn't remember we don't have any cell reception up there. I mean, I was just that scared. And then I looked at the little window in the room and I thought, well, I can't crawl out of that. And so my husband says he's going around to the front, like the front of the house. Like he knows about bears or something. He's going to go around. And then a few minutes later, he comes back and he says, come out to the garage. We'll go get help. And I thought, what, how am I supposed to do that? And it was one of the scariest moments of my entire life. Oh, in being in that laundry room and opening those doors, and maybe I'm going to be eye to eye with the bear again. And I didn't see the bear, I didn't smell the bear, and I raced out, got in the car, and as we're pulling away, right to the left of the front door, there's a big square window in my husband's office. And the bear had crawled up over the electronic keyboard and was standing in the window watching us leave. And my husband said, look who's in charge now. Okay,
Yeah.
It's time for the raffle.
For the raffle.
And
Oh yeah, well, thank you so much, Joe. This has been fantastic.
oh, thank you all. Thank you all. Okay, I'm drawing the winning.
Would you like to call the numbers?
Oh, here.
All right. The first number.
Okay,
You want to read it or you want me to? I got
you
it.
can read it. Okay.
All right. The first number is 312026. There we are.
You? There you go.
Congratulations. Here, I can bring it over. Thank you so much. All righty. There's still another chance. No fear. Thank you. All right. The second one is 312012.
Oh, here you go. Wait, there you go. Okay. Okay. Then we also have.
But wait, there's more.
We also have a couple books that I'd like
Books.
to give away. I
Great.
wanted to have a whole pile of books. I thought it'd be fun to sign them, and but you can't sell stuff here apparently. So I'm just giving them away.
So she's just giving them away today. Lucky you guys. 312007. Oh no. All right, we're gonna have to redraw. We're gonna have to redraw. All right. 312005. Yes. Sutton.
Okay, and what's his name?
Sutton.
S?
Sutton.
Oh, Sutton. Okay.
Yeah. Custom sign.
Let's go.
Yeah,
It's a 1-on-1.
there you go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming. Thank you. Okay, we have one more to give
We
away.
have one more. One more lucky person.
Okay. there
All
you go.
right. The last number is, they all start with 312, no surprise. 023.
Ah,
Alex.
Alex? How do you spell Alex?
ALEX.
Okay. Congratulations.
very much.
Enjoy.
I appreciate it. I will.
Oh, thank you. And then, just for fun, since Mother's Day is coming up, I thought it would be fun to give out a couple of my previous book, Never Sit If You Can Dance, Lessons from My Mother. And whoever wins this, you can share it with your mom or just enjoy it by yourself.
All righty, this one. So we got 312020. In the back.
Ah. Okay, I will save this for you. Okay, and then this is This is our
Final
final one, I think. Yeah.
one. Drum roll.
Dum 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 dum. Okay.
Okay.
Dum dum dum.
We've got 312-011.
Ah,
Will.
who's that?
WILL.
Oh.
That is awesome.
Thank you so much. Enjoy.
I will.
Yeah.
Alrighty, well, I think that is everything. Thank you so much to Jo.
Yeah.
We're
Thank
so
you.
glad she was able to
Thank
come in
you.
today.